Rory, how are you doing? You're here an hour early normally.
I'm doing good. I am doing good. I'm all ready to both receive and impart wisdom where appropriate.
I'm so glad you're here because for a while there, Rory was not going to be able to make it because he had some other things scheduled. So we'll talk about text commands. What are they? Well, they're essentially functional bits of code, and they work with the active document. So the active document is essentially the context for this code to execute. And from the active document, you can get the caret, work with selections, work with views into the document, etc. So when you create a text command, there's in a plugin, there's an event called execute, and when you handle that event, there's some event args, and one of the event args is the active text document. So you have all this access when you're writing a text command to selections and views and things like that. Excuse me. Text commands can be used in templates. In fact, primarily that's where they're used in code templates. But they can also be used in other features like selection wrappers, and you can also call them programmatically from your plugin if you want to. And text commands can accept parameters. The parameters can be text just simply spelled out, and I'll show you examples of that. Or they can be a string provider. And Rory wanted to explore one of the examples, which I didn't prep for, but we'll have to kind of research and do because my brain's a little fuzzy on this example. But he thought it was a real important example for one of the text commands, so passing in string providers for him. So we'll look at that a little bit later. So this is what the syntax looks like. On the outside, you've got these double chevron delimiters, and on the inside, you've got the name of the text command, and then any optional parameters that you want to pass to it. So I've got these. What I've done is I've looked at the text commands that we have in the list, and I have broken them into categories, into groups. And so the first category that we'll talk about is the where am I category. And these are text commands that will insert text into the document, and based on these values, based on where you are in the code. So for example, you've got class.method, full type name. You've seen them here. Let's go ahead and look at those inside the code here. So I've got a template I created called Where Am I, WAI, and it just spits all of these out. I'll let you take a look at that template inside here. So WAI looks like this. It creates a comment in C#, multi-line comment, and then it just calls all of these text commands. There's class.method, full type name, member, and then it has a label that it puts in text label to the left, so you can see what each of those are. And so if we look at what we get, the class is form1, class.method is form1.form1, because that's where we are. Let's create a new method called ready. Here, so let's change this up a bit. Let's do method returns a bool, we'll call it ready. And then inside here we'll return true, and down here we'll do that WAI again template. And now you can see here class.method gives me form1.ready. So you get that. Here's the class, and then there's the method right there, ready. So class.method gives me form1.ready. Full type name gives me this, so that's the full name of the type I'm in, the member, and the method. Method is essentially a subset of member. So member will give you properties and events as well, but method will only return a value if you're inside of a method. If I'm outside of a method and I type in this WAI, member and method are both empty. Okay, or if I'm inside a property, let's go to the property real quick. And I'm inside here and I type in WAI. Here we should see, oh, I'm surprised by that. Method gives me ready as well. Interesting. So I was totally surprised by, oh wait, hold on. There we go. That's what I was expecting. So what happened is, what I was really surprised by there, Roy, was the screen scrolled, and I thought I was looking at something different. Okay, so this is what I was expecting to see. So method is empty, but property name is as a value because I'm still a member. Okay. Indeed. There's the namespace. The return type is a string, so there you can see what the return type is. There you can see that there. Root namespace is empty. I actually asked one of the devs about this. This is actually an obscure text command that both I and one of my devs did not know about in the few minutes I spent looking at this before doing this. But I'm pretty sure in VB you're going to get something real out of root namespace.
Yeah.
This is a VB concept. Am I right on that, Rory?
Yeah. Yeah, I've not used that particular text command, but if the name is correct, then essentially it's the VB version of a default namespace. They're not quite the same thing. In C#, the default namespace is injected into every class surrounding it as you make a new file. In VB, that doesn't happen. The same equivalent value is instead built in at compile time. So you won't see the namespace necessarily in the file, but it's built on as a parent namespace to everything in that particular VB project. You can still use your own namespaces within that, but it's kind of like a project level namespace.
What's interesting is I'm not seeing it used in any of our VB templates. So I'm not sure if this is something that was requested by a customer or is used in some other feature, but it does not appear to be used in any of our VB templates. So that's kind of an interesting one. I will do a follow-up blog post on this if we find out something more interesting about root namespace that we don't already know about that. One thing I wanted to show is when I went in the options page, what I was just doing there is I typed in what I was looking for there, root, and then I hit this button right here to find text inside templates to see if it was used anywhere there. So there you can see it's used here on this in my sample template that I just created. The type kind will give me back the word class or struct or interface, that sort of thing, depending on where I am. And then there's the type name again, form1. Okay? So type name is that.
A really awkward question, Mark.
Uh-oh. Yeah, go ahead.
So how come these aren't implemented as string providers?
Oh, you know, that's probably a really great question. Is almost all of these should be string providers because they simply just put text in.
Is it more of a legacy, maybe?
I think it could be a legacy thing, and it could be also there's some obscurity purpose for it that is not coming to mind. So that could exist as well, where at some point we want to actually insert the text of it without actually getting the text back. I don't know. That doesn't really make sense. It really makes sense to me that these should all be string providers. So now that I've said, brought up that nasty word, string providers. Let's go ahead, and the reason I say nasty is because text commands, it's often easy to confuse a text command with a string provider, but they both have dedicated purposes. A string provider, if I wanted to use an analogy of code, is kind of like this. It's kind of like a method that returns a string, whereas a text command is more along the lines of this, something that brings in a text document like that, and it looks like this. So these are the differences between a text command and a string provider from a code analogy standpoint. These are the two differences. So as such, a string provider simply returns text, but a text command does not return anything. So all of these pieces here, what they're actually doing is they're calling a method called TextDocument.InsertText. They're actually calling a method on the document, passing in whatever that's going to be, like form1 or whatever that text is going to be right there. Okay? Whereas here, it might just simply return form1. Okay? Those are the two differences, and the reason it's so. I don't know. The reason I have a little bit more anxiety when I have to describe these two and talk about them too is because the subtleties, they're both subtly different. Right? They both can execute any code. You can put any code you want inside your text command or your string provider. I'm talking from an extensibility standpoint if you're going to build these, right? You can put any code you want inside either of these. You can put up dialogues, that sort of thing. And even from the string provider, you can go out and get the active text document. You can go out and get that, using some call out to CodeRush CodeRush.documents. Active text document. It looks something along those lines. So you can even get and work with that. So to make this, to make this similar, they're even more similar from that standpoint if I say, give me the active text document that's out here. However, because this will always return a string, and because this never does, right, I can use a string provider and pass that as a parameter to something else. Okay? So let's go back to that slide we were on, the slideshow here. Let's go back up couple here. We were talking about the differences between these. So let's see. Text commands can accept parameters, text, or a string provider. We can pass in another string provider to a text command, but we cannot pass a text command into a text command. We just can't because it doesn't resolve to a string. So Rory asked this really awkward question, which is why are these not string providers? Well, gosh, they should be. But let's go into options, though, and let's say that you were going to look for these as a string provider. To put a string provider in, which I'm, it seems like I've made a mistake in scheduling, Rory. I should have done string providers first. Let's type in SPD for string provider demo. And in here, we'll say insert string provider. And now if we go down through here, we should see things like type name, for example. There's type, for example. So I can put in type, and that'll actually spit out the text for the type that we're in.
Sure.
I'll do maybe a couple more. I'll grab member as well, because that one is in there. So I think what happened is it's kind of a legacy thing to some degree. We went in, we created these initially as text commands because maybe we weren't thinking, very clearly. And then we realized that later on, oops, they really need to be string providers. So we add the string providers, but we can't delete the text commands because we've shipped them, and it's essentially a contract. So we'll do the SPD demo right here, and you'll see string providers as it work here. So SPD, and there it gives me type 41, members property name. That's getting it from right here. From that right there. Okay?
Okay, yeah.
Okay, so that's it. That's thanks for totally derailing. Now we're going to, Amanda, we're about an hour and a half now, thanks to Rory. All right, so that was Where Am I? Thanks a lot, Rory. Amanda's going to get so skinny. All right, so next, navigation and selection. So within here, we can specify where the caret is. So the caret is the flashing I-beam cursor that moves around in the code. People often call it a cursor, but the technical term is a caret. So just about everywhere that's used, we call it a caret in our documentation, just to distinguish from the actual mouse cursor that moves around. So caret is where the flashing I-beam cursor is inside the code. Block anchor, that is, let me give you a visual demonstration of that. If I click here and select from here to the left, the caret is the flashing piece on the left. The block anchor is right here where I first clicked. So the block anchor is where the start of the selection is. So using block anchor and caret, we can create selections. And then we also have some other navigation pieces like go to file bottom, go to file top, store insertion point, go to insertion point, marker, and hard marker. So I'll show you these. I've got a nice one. So essentially I'm confused here. SD, oh, I know why, because I made a change and that's when PowerPoint decided to give me an hourglass total of death. Okay, so I have another one here. This is the one I wanted to show, IPD, and then SD will show that, I guess, as well. So here's SD, and this is a selection demo, and you can see here I've got a comment. I've got this text command called caret. In fact, let's take these out and I'll put these in, and you can see how I built this. So here I have just simply a comment that says selection demo. I click this button to position the caret there. I could also select it from this list here, but they're so common we create buttons for them. And over on the right side, I can select this button, which is the block anchor side of things. So if I use these two together, I'll create a selection. Caret on the left, block anchor is on the right. Click OK. Now let's expand it, SD for the selection demo, and there's my selection. Caret on the left, block anchor on the right. I can switch that up if I want to. Let's create a second template that does it the other way. I'll create a template called SDR. If I click choose create duplicate, give it a different name, SDR. To reverse this out, and this time I'll put block anchor on the left, caret on the right. Click OK. And so now we'll type in SDR, and it goes this way. Now, you may not think it's a big deal because it's selected no matter what. From my perspective, it actually is. It's a very big deal, and the reason, if you take a look at this, the reason why is because look at where your eyes are looking when the expansion occurs. It's over on the right where the flashing piece is, right? The flashing I-beam caret. If I want to change this to something else, like just my selection or something, I type in the letter M, and now all of a sudden that flashing piece has moved to the left. Okay, so my eyes move from right to left. It's a small movement in the eyes. If I just expand the SD template again, notice here my eyes are on the left near the letter S. I type in the letter M, and my eyes don't move. Okay, so it's small detail, but you'll find in every single template we ship where we have a selection, the caret's on the left, the block anchor is on the right. Okay, All right, so that's one of the demos there. The other demo that I wanted to show for the other pieces is in a template called IPD, okay, which does this. Let's go ahead and look at how we build this and take a look at that. I'm just going to escape to clear that marker here. Okay, options. So here we go. This is and then we have a call to store insertion point. We pass the name of the insertion point, so I'm just calling it test. Okay, but maybe let's call it something else like Rory's initials, RB. Down here I've got a go to insertion point, so I can RB there. Okay, so this is now we're storing the insertion point and giving it a name. That's all we're doing. Put a soft marker. I just used the marker button right there. Put that piece in. Let's put the caret here. I used the caret button there. Let's put a hard marker here. So here I just selected hard marker from the list down in here. Sorry, I'll scroll down a bit so you can see it. There's hard marker there. Now let's go back to where we were. So that's just text, right? Followed by a call to go to insertion point RB, followed by the text test. So what happens is we're now going to jump up here and write the word text. Then we're going to go to the top of the file, put in a comment that says top of file. Then I'm setting leading white space to nothing because right now our leading white space here is going to be wherever we start this indentation at. And then when I put this enter right here at the top of the file, it's going to insert. If I don't have this, in fact, let's take this out and see what's happening. If I don't have this, when I hit enter, it's going to take, because I'm jumping around, it's going to take the last leading white space that we have. Normally you don't jump around in a template like this, but the point of the point that I'm making with this is that you actually have the power to do things like this, to go to different locations, work a bit, go somewhere else, and come back. So it's powerful if you need this kind of power. So we go to the top of file, we say top of file, then we say go to the bottom of file, and then we are at the bottom of file. We write that. So let's look at that again. Let's click OK. Let me hit undo on this, undo that out. Okay, so here we go. IPD one more time. All right, so this is, and there the word test shows up, right? Just from simply storing the insertion point and coming back and putting that in. At the top of the file, there we are, and then the indentation that's inserted here is the same indentation that we were at when we expanded this, right? If we were to undo this and expand it at a deeper level, well, here my expectation is that we would go even further out. There, see it's even further out, right there. So that's for the purpose of that other text command that we used right at that one point, to set indentation level, to clear it back to 0. So here, set leading white space, and we just simply are going to pass anything to that at all. There's no leading white space we'll pass in at all. By the way, one of the cool things about set leading white space is, here, let's show it in, let's go back in. You can actually put things that are not leading white space. I think it looks like I do not have a leading white space demo here. So we'll create one real quickly here. In fact, we'll do it right in here. So if I come in here and I say set leading white space, I can now specify the amount of white space I want to put in here, between the parentheses like this. So we'll do that. So if I now come in and do the IPD demo, like right up here, IPD, like that, what? Leading white space failed. Why did that fail? That's interesting. I was totally expecting that to work. Now I'm in debug mode here, Rory. Let me try one other thing. See what happens now. All right. So undo. So now we should be cleared up at the top. Let's try one more time. IPD. Okay, there. All right. That's so the leading white space, interesting, did not work here. Maybe because we had reformatting afterwards. That might be what's going on. And it just, Visual Studio said, we called Visual Studio as reformatting. It did it. But one of the things I wanted to point out is you can actually use set leading white space to actually say something that's not actually white space. And so at the beginning of each new line, it'll put this text right here. Okay. So that's what happened there. So another unusual use for set leading white space.
So you've almost got some kind of a macro language going on here. You've got the ability not just to emit stuff in order exactly as it says, but to jump up to another location, change the leading white space, insert various bits of text, and come back to where you were.
Yes. In fact, one of the requests that we've had is to be able to put, when we expand a template for like properties that are that have backing store, is to separate the property declaration from the field declaration, put that somewhere else. And we're really not that far away from adding a go-to text command that says like go-to fields, you know, for example, or go-to something else. That might be actually an interesting thing to build. We might build that next week, because I think we're talking about plugins next week.
We are. We're on to plugins.
So maybe we'll do that next week or the week after that. Yeah, I have a feeling we'll do. I'm hoping we'll be able to just do like a plugin every week. That would be kind of a cool thing.
Yeah, we can manage that.
So okay, so yes, it is like a macro language to some degree. In fact, we actually kind of really, Roy, you can fake a macro language using the text commands. One of the text commands that's in here is called ForEach, and I'll show you that one. And I'm just clicking this to see where it is occurring. So here, for example, is a template called OA, which the comment says override abstract members. And here we have the ForEach text command, and we're passing in parameters. And the parameter says, it goes like this: for each abstract member in base, and then we pass a second parameter, which is the name of the template to expand, declare item. So for each abstract member in the base, we're going to declare item. A declare item is right here. And this calls a interesting. This is a text command called declare override item. Interesting. I just wanted to see that. There it is. Wow, I was not expecting that. So let's take a look at that. So one of the things I wanted to show you is in the user guide, which I have up here on the left. You can get from DevExpress options user guide right here. Here's the user guide. Inside reference, you've got a section for text commands and string providers. So string providers, we were just looking at. So Roy, you know, I declare override item. So here it is, right here. Declare returns a member override declaration for the abstract for each item. So here we go. Let's click on this. So you can see the description of it. This character right here shows up, and I think it's because we're using the Internet Explorer browser, and we're passing it this character, and I think it's a side effect of that. That may be what's going on there. But actually, Rory, we should make a note to devs to look at that too as well. So here, for example, this will create overrides for each abstract method found. So interesting. So what's happening here is the string provider is simply creating that declaration for you as text and then putting it in. And so we would type in OA here, and then it would give us all those pieces. That's what the OA template. So yeah, the OA template will go through, use the for each, and on each one of those pieces that's in there, it will then go declare the item. So it's calling declare item there. Let's look at an implementation of for each since we're diving into this here. So switch. Oh, switch is a nice one. Let's show switch. So let's create an enum element here real quickly. And we'll call this suits from a deck of cards. We'll call this hearts and spades, diamonds, and clubs. Like that. And then we can now have something of that type. Copy that to the clipboard and now type in switch, spacebar. Oh, come on. That should work.
What have you got on the clipboard, Mark? Sorry, I missed that.
I have card type on the clipboard. So it could be, let me double check let's just double check the template here. Let's see what's going on here. Template switch, switch. Yeah, clip type. So this should be working, and it's not. And my sense is that if you try this, what I just did, the same things, it'll actually work for you. But it's not working for me. So let's try one more time on this. I have a feeling maybe my board is hosed. My clipboard chain is hosed, which can sometimes happen if I have multiple instances of Visual Studio open. For example, I'm testing plugins and I hit the stop debug button instead of letting it close down gracefully. So that may be what's going on. But this should totally work for you. The switch statement should work on the suits.
I was going to see if I could get something like that going myself.
anybody who's listening want to try that out can give it a shot and see if they can, and put in the chat window if they're seeing that working. Okay, so switch is the other one. Let's keep going and looking at the other ones in there since I can't demo the clipboard stuff. Let's see what else. Oh, this one's interesting. ASM for creating an assign method which performs a shallow copy between fields of this class. So another use for it. So we're going to create an assign method, and then for each field in this. So for each field in this class, we're going to call another template called assign statement, and then that right here looks like this. It calls get item name equals, and then get item name again followed with an assign parameter in the middle. So get item name. Let's look at what's going on with that. So let's do that right here. Let's say, let's just do a simple one here. We'll type ASM here. We should see one assignment field here, and there you have it right here. So ancestor descendant is the name of this class that we're in right here, or compare, something along those lines. And so we get that. We put more pieces in here. For example, we put in a new shuffled, maybe called a shuffled, for example. And while we're at it, let's rename this so it doesn't look so fucking dry. Yeah, cards. Okay, and so now we come down in here. Let's get rid of this assign. We come back down to ASM, and we get there's our assign, passing in a deck of cards, and then you can see what's being built for us. Okay.
Mark, I got a fix for your enumeration problem.
Okay, what is it?
It seems it works if the enumeration is inside the class rather than outside at the moment.
Oh, is that really what it is? That's weird. Let's see if it works for me. Because I was thinking it was a. No, it's still not working for me.
All right. Well, mine was.
Was yours working outside the class though, as well, or no?
That's interesting.
I bet yours is working outside the class. I think it's just that my clipboard chain is hosed, and I should have checked that before doing the demo. In order to get this to work, I have to start up a second instance of it. But yeah, this will work if your clipboard chain is still intact.
You are correct. Yes, it is working in both locations for me.
Yeah. Okay. So Rory is doing that. I almost want to say, Rory, can I make the presenter for a second and show that?
You can if you want. Yeah.
All right. Let's just do that real quick.
Right. So my C# is not terribly good, but there we have some code. We have suits, and I'm going to grab variable of type type suits called mySuit, and SW hits space, and there you go.
That's what I wanted to show. Thank you so much, Rory.
No trouble.
Okay. All right. I'll come back and I'll be the presenter now. All right. So back over. You can see my screen again now.
I can indeed.
Okay. Good. So let's go back over to the slides. So with regard to clipboard, I have paste and paste type also available. I don't have demos for these, but paste type is interesting. It should actually probably fail for mine because we've already determined my clipboard history is hosed. So we won't. I won't show paste type, but that will. What paste type does is it checks to see what's on the clipboard. For example, if I have shuffled on the clipboard and I do paste type, it'll go up and find the declaration for shuffled and paste in bool. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So paste type you may find to be very useful. Namespace references. So root namespace we already talked about. This other one's interesting is reference namespace from type. So I think I have a demo for that, reference namespace from type. It's a template called RNFT. And I'm passing in just system drawing bitmap, and we're expecting to see a reference added to system.drawing. So click OK on that, and let's look at that. So let's see, do we have system drawing in there? Not yet. So I'll type in RFNT. Whoops, RNFT. There we go. And there you can see it's added system.drawing right up here to the top. If I do it a second time, R reference namespace from type, nothing happens because we've already got the namespace added. Now, one of the things we can do, since we're talking about templates and advanced stuff, this is slightly off topic, but I think interesting with this particular demo, is instead of saying, let's do this, we'll create a duplicate, and this time we're going to pass in, at the end of this, a reference to the type dynamic list, which I'm putting in question marks. And now, instead of passing in here to system drawing bitmap, we're going to instead make a call to the string provider called get. And we're going to pass in the name of the dynamic list, which is type. We'll change it to this. So now, if I come in here, let's get rid of this. And so if I come in here and I say reference namespace from type, and then I specify a type in here, in fact, let's do this. Let's get rid of all of these. Let's optimize these namespace references so we don't have anything in here. So let's specify a type. I think there's a type out there called XD for XML document. And there you can see what it just did. It just put in using system.xml. So you can pass
DS, you'd have a data set, and you'd have the system.data would be thrown in.
Reference namespace from type DS. There you've got a system data, exactly. So the point is that what we're doing is that DS is, what I should have done is I just should have put this out and changed the template just a bit. And just put this out one more time so you can see it. So here's an example of a text command, and we're passing into it a string provider. The difference in syntax is the string provider just has a question mark there at the very beginning of it, and that's the only difference in syntax. All right. So so now if we expand that same thing again, we'll move this to, we'll use those same two demos, those two examples. I mean, so namespace reference from type DS. Namespace reference from type DS. Why did that fit after me? Did I get the template wrong? Did I just?
I think maybe the name was not quite.
All right, it's reference namespace. My bad. Yeah, I did.
Right.
Reference namespace from type DS. There we go. And so now you can see data set showing up there. So data space to data set. See what's going on. So you can pass parameters. Those can be text parameters. Those can be, from the string provider or something else. You pass parameters to them. Let's go back into the. I want to talk a little bit more about the that ESM template that we used to create this one, right? That template to create this block of code. Inside, let's expand it one more time so we can get it selected for us automatically here. So there's the ESM template just expanded. So any template that expands will be selected when I bring up the template options page. And so here it goes to assign statement. If we go look at assign statement, which is here, we have these calls to get what you just saw, and we're passing in item name. So what's the magic with item name? If we go into the user guide and we look at text commands, we come down to ForEach TextCommand. Oops, there it is. ForEach TextCommand. You can see that it says that you can, inside the template you're calling, use the text command get item type, item name, and get item type to get the name and type of each item iterated. So what that means is we can go into that template we were just looking at, the ESM template, and what we can do is inside assign statement, which is the template that we're calling, we could add a comment out to the end of that that says the type of the piece. Type is, and paste in this, we pass in instead item type. Click OK. And now if we delete this, and just to make things interesting, I'm going to add a new string, or maybe a deck name like that. Come down in here, and we'll type in ASM again. And now we have this expansion, and notice off to the side here, we see type is suits, type is bool, type is string. And the piece is just being built for us, one at a time. Okay. The other thing that I want to say with regards to using the ForEach is take a look at what's going on here. We have it inside of, so it goes public void assign, then we have the open brace immediately followed by the ForEach and the closing brace. And what happens is if there are no fields inside here, then nothing is essentially built. And then if we go look at assign statement right here, if I move the cursor down, you see it actually moves to the next line, which means there's a carriage return at the end of this line. So that's the other important piece, is if I don't put a carriage return, they're all going to be on one line like that, which you can do if you want to. So that's the ForEach. There's a lot of things you can do with that, and the documentation in the user guide for the ForEach talks about the parameters, has the parameters here, and shows, gives you additional documentation on what values you can possibly pass in here. So there's a lot of things you can do. And the other thing is I'm pretty sure we give you full source code to this plugin. So I'm pretty sure that's out there in the source code directory. So if you want to change how this works, extend it, you can, or just just look and see how it works. If you want to build your own something similar, you can do that. Okay. All right. So fields. Let's talk about fields a little bit. So fields are entry points as you're working with text. Rory and I have talked about these, in the past. We did a presentation when our first webinars was on advanced templates. We talked about fields, so I'll just briefly go over them here. But I have a few demos that I've created. I have FD0 field demo 0, which just simply puts some fields out there, but the caret's at the very end. And the purpose of that demonstration is, here, take a look at the template, is that even if you have fields, you still have to specify where you're going to select, which field should be selected. And the way you do that is just by putting a selection in. For example, by putting the block anchor there, and by putting the caret on the other side of it. I'm going to hit cancel because I have another template that does exactly that, called FD1. This. And now this actually selects the first piece right there, where I can now type it in whatever I want it to be. My proc, like this, hit enter. Whoops, that was Visual Studio kicking in. Hit enter. And then when I say Visual Studio, I meant the IntelliSense coming in because it was up. And then I can specify what the parameters I'm going to pass in 1, 2, 3. And I'm just hitting enter between each one of these. Okay. Looks like I'm missing a comma in my template declaration. Okay. Not a big deal because it's just a demo. I have another one in here called FD2, which changes things up a bit. Instead of selecting the first one, it selects the first parameter here. You can go look at that template that just expanded, and you can just see that just to confirm what you're expecting. There's caret on one side, block anchor on the other side, and now I'm going to add that comment inside of here. I wanted to show you this because I wanted you to see what happens when you specify something that's not the first one, not the first field, as the first field that has focus. So first was 1, enter, 2, enter, 3, enter, and now we come back to the beginning. So you can do that, change that if you want to. Okay.
So all the fields, they basically form data entry points in your template, the ones with unique names, and then you will start from whichever one you've got the caret and block anchor around, and if not, then just from the first one, navigating with each enter, left to right, top to bottom, and then looping back if there are any remaining if you started halfway through.
Right. And so you simply just pass in the text of the field that you want it to be. One more, I've got FD3 right here. So it sets up a field for the method name, and it sets up puts on something called final target here. Let's look at that. FD3, method name is there, my proc, whatever it's going to be, and notice where final target was, we have this indicator, and if I hit enter, I jump right down inside. So the final target is the final location for the caret when you're done with the very last field. Okay, so final target, you can specify that. Okay, let's look at links, setting up links next. I have, and actually, with regard to slides, field end, I'll just briefly say this, field end and field start. This allows you to declare a field that may be that may contain text generated by another text command. So field start, field end allows us to essentially do the equivalent of passing a text command as a parameter into a field. So it just allows me to say, here's the start of the field, here's the end of the field. Okay, and it'll then whatever text is between that, it'll make that the text. So you can use these as well if you're not putting simple text in there. And we have the same option. Go ahead.
Sorry, I'd just like to point out that if any of this is going over anyone's heads, please feel free to ask questions here now, or find us online. Find me on Twitter, find my email. We'll be happy to explain any of this, as you want to go through it. It can be a little complex the first time around, but it does all make perfect sense when you use it. Trust me.
Right. Also, for everybody who's listening live, it's your responsibility to ask questions if you have them, because the people that are watching this recorded, if they've got questions, they can't interact as easily as you can. So for the benefit of a greater humanity, ask questions. We have over here in final target, we have the same end and start as well, so we can specify the start and end for a final target if we don't want to if we for some reason want to put something in between it, or actually, I'm now curious about this because I haven't used these. I'm wondering if this will actually allow me to have a final target that's a selection. That's an interesting question. Well, let's see if that works. Final target start. Let's try final target end and see if we can actually put a selection in here. Let's see what happens there. Okay. Enter. Whoa!
There you go.
That's awesome.
That's good.
That's awesome. So I didn't know we could do that. That's very cool. So this is actually maybe slightly different from the other one in the sense that I can actually specify a whole selection. I didn't know I could do that for a final target. That's awesome. Okay.
So I've got a question.
Yeah.
What's the difference between a final target and a target?
Okay. So it's. I should point out that a target is probably not the best name for this. It should really have the name soft target. And so it's essentially a soft version of a final target. And the idea is that sometimes, like for example with the ForEach TextCommand, you might be implementing many different templates, right, that have fields inside of them. And each one of those might want to specify a final target. Okay? Well, if each one specifies a final target, the question is, where is the real final target going to be? And even if, let's say, the calling, the outside wrapping template, the main template that has the for each, specifies a final target, there's still this ambiguity, right? So what final target allows you to do is to specify a target in the sub-pieces, the sub-templates, that will be a target if that's the only thing that expands. But if that template is aliased out by another template, in other words, called to by another bigger template, and that bigger template has a final target in it, that final target will take priority, and the inside ones, if they just use target, they'll be soft. They'll be considered soft.
So if you're building a hierarchy of of templates, it probably makes more sense to use target for the smaller pieces, so that it can be superseded by something that is, used by a larger template.
Right. So up here in navigation selection, we have soft caret and soft anchor. Same thing, same purpose here. The idea is that if you have a template that could be called standalone, or from a bigger, or could be also called and used from a bigger template that uses caret and block anchor, you want to use caret and soft anchor in the standalone pieces, and then specify the hard-coded caret and block anchor. It's simply a way of specifying, kind of prioritizing which one is, in the face of ambiguity, which one is going to be the one that we're going to use. So that's the difference there. So fields. So links are next. So let's look at links. I think I have just a simple demo called LD for link demo, and it sets up some links for us. So here's the first link. I'm going to hit a space bar, and I'm outside the link. I'll hit a dot. I'm outside the link. I continue to put in text, my identifier, like that. So the default one, which is the first one that is in the group there, is called just link, and it's kind of a legacy thing that created this. Our first links were for linking up identifiers, so that's what we created first. Then somebody said, oh, but you know what, I really want to have links of type. In other words, I want to be able to put a dot in between these two, right? And so let's go ahead and we'll expand this one more time. LD for the linked one, we'll go up here. Now here's an example where if I take this, I delete it, and I say like my class dot static method call, like that, it still works. The dot stays inside, but if I were here and I were to type that in, my class dot, I'm outside. And the whole point on this is, why do I go outside when I have the dot? Is because we want to have some sort of intelligence here. You hit some key that doesn't make sense for this, or plus, or whatever. It's not an identifier. Then I don't want to make any change. So it's a usability issue is what's going on here. It's usability. Okay. And again, saying here. So here we use the link text command. Here we use the type link command. The last one we added based on a user request is a text link, which means I can just keep on typing, forever with spaces. I can keep on typing, and the link stays connected. Or links are all updated, right? Okay, so that's linking. When I hit enter, they're all cleared up, and so now I can make a change to one, and they won't change anywhere else. So I hit enter on these. I have not hit enter here yet. I can also, with links, this is kind of a slightly off topic aside, but I can right-click and choose. Right-click and choose break this link, which will break this one, but the others will stay the same. Usability note for the devs. Can you take a note on this, Rory? Mm-hmm. Usability note. This is something that's been on my mind. I haven't actually spec'd it out yet, but when I choose break this link, what I want to do is have it jump to the last link that was selected before this one that I was in.
Sure. Yeah.
So because that's more useful than staying where we were.
Sure.
So just to demo that. So if I'm here and I said break this link and I haven't been to any other links inside of that, well, then what I wanted to do is jump down to the next one that I can see, or the next, if there was one I was in before. Just that sort of thing. Maybe just have the devs talk to me about this. I want to have that kind of navigation.
No problem.
Going on. Okay, so that's the link demo. Now, links are text commands. Fields are text commands. What happens when you want to have a field that is also a link? And that's where we do that field start and field end piece that we saw before. So we'll come in here and we'll just quickly demo that. We'll come in here and we'll say field start there. We'll come over here to the end of that. We'll say field end. Oops. Like that. And we'll also put the caret, we'll wrap it around and make it selected, because right now what's happening is we're not specifying caret position, so by default caret goes to the end, the very end. So now we're saying that we can select that. So now we have a field. So if I have an LD again, now we have a field it's selected for me automatically. And when I hit enter on this, by default the field goes to the end of line if no final target is specified. Let's set up a different field. Let's set up one more field so you can just at least see that working and how you would build that. So if we will make this the next field. So again, I'll come in here and I'll choose field start. And then over here I'll choose field end. That. Click OK. Come in again, LD for link demo. First, hit enter. Second, .link, hit enter. And again, I'm at the end of the line. Right? It's just a matter of putting final target now to the end or setting this up here, putting final target down there. And I have what's essentially a data entry form for code that has connected pieces. Okay? So the one I'm not talking about in here is multi-link. Multi-link is for setting up links, and the user guide talks about this a little bit, between different documents. So right now, all of these are in one document. Text link, type link, and link are in a single document. Multi-link is for links across multiple documents. Rory, did we build this by chance for you? Was this a request you made? Am I remembering that correctly or no?
I'm not sure this one was specifically for me, but up until now, what we've done is we've looked at text commands that are to be used, as you say, in templates. But you can code plugins to build these as well, and you could inject because of course a template can't at the moment affect more than one document. So you couldn't put two multi-links in two documents using a template. I'm not sure you could get away with doing it, but if you were doing a plugin, you could inject that and you could have sort of two pieces in two completely distinct documents, right, keeping track of each other's text. So I suspect it's just not applicable here.
Okay, so I don't think it. At first, I thought it was something we did for you, because I know there was discussion about something similar to this. But now I'm thinking that what my dev told me earlier today is, because I had an explanation from the dev, and I was like, "Are you sure about that?" And he's like, "I'm pretty sure." And then I was like, "Well, wait a second." So I wanted to ask you, but the dev's explanation was that we call this programmatically from within our refactorings. So we have a number of refactorings that do this. Like one of them is extract your resource, where we go out and we build a resource, we give it a name, and now you've got two files that have the same text that's linked together. But you can simply make a change in one, and it'll change in the other. So if anybody is needing to do this, and you're building a plugin and you want to use this, just send a message to Rory and myself or support@devexpress.com and ask how to use it, and we'll get you an example, a code example of how to use that link. Cool. Okay. So there are some undocumented text commands, and usually I get all giddy and excited when somebody tells me about undocumented stuff, because there's something secret in there, right? That may be some good stuff. And there's actually a couple things that are definitely interesting pieces in here. I'm not sure why these are undocumented, but I will tell you that they do appear inside of inside the options dialog in that command drop-down for the text commands. They do appear here. So you can see, for example, delete right, delete after format. So here's the explanation of those. Begin from format and end format. This marks a range of text to format, and that is useful if suppressed formatting is turned on. So what you can do is say, don't format the whole template, but inside it, just format this piece. And by format, what we mean by that is after it's done with the expansion, we go to the Visual Studio language service, whatever that is for whatever language you're expanding in, and we say, format this based on what the user wants the form, has set up their code style options to be. Now, it's no secret that CodeRush, the next version of CodeRush, as of now, the point that we're recording this, 11.1, is going to have a new feature called code formatting. And things may change slightly with regard to this. In other words, we may go call our formatting after expansion, and I'm not sure if we're, at this point, going to override Visual Studio's or call it and then work after it. I have a feeling we're doing it in place of theirs is what we're going to be doing. So so it may, behind the scenes, it may be slightly different, but functionally above the covers it should be the same in terms of what you see. Okay, so let's go back to slides. So delete after format deletes the specified text after the language service formatting is called. Now this is useful we found this is useful in HTML because the Visual Studio's HTML language service in certain versions of Visual Studio was the language formatting was destructive. It would, if we put, for example, white space, leaving white space out to put a marker at the end of that, the formatter would remove the leading white space even if there was nothing on that line. And what we needed to do was put something on that line, essentially a comment, and then after the format was done, we would go in and delete that text. So delete after format allows you to put in some kind of comment that won't impact reformatting if you need to do this, and then after the template expands, it will remove that piece. After the template expands and after language service formatting is called, it will then remove that piece that you put in. Delete right. Delete right deletes the specified text if it exists to the right of the caret. So check out where this is used. This is actually kind of clever. So at some point we introduced a feature that, let's look for delete right and search for that. Okay, let's see. Is this the most interesting? So I want to see if I can find. Well, I guess I can do these demos. I'm going with these demos right here. So yeah, so here's the deal. We had two things. One is we entered a feature. I'll show you the feature here, like my array. When I type in the open bracket, it gives me a closed bracket. And if I type in the closed bracket, it just puts the caret outside. If I type in the open bracket, the closed bracket, it also, notice I'm also in a field here. So when I'm done with my indexer, I can just hit enter to get outside if I want to as well. And there's a few other things that are going on here. Let me move mouse away from the code issue. Let me show you a few other things just because of the behavior of this. 433. If I put a semicolon here, that other feature, smart semicolon, actually accepts the field, sees that we're in a field, and puts it out. But the main point I want to say is when I put the open one in, the closed one gets there. The closed bracket gets there, right? So now, what about templates for creating arrays? Let's bring up the CodeRush training window, and so we can see those. So if we wanted to declare, for example, let's declare a variable of type Boolean that's an array. Well, we use this character right here because it's a natural character to remember for creating arrays. Watch what happens. Whoa, we put in the closing one. Okay, so we type in VB open bracket. But now when we hit the space bar, it says delete right if that character exists. So we go into the options and we look at that template. There it is right there, variable of type. With that, we say delete right. And we just delete that piece to the right if it's right there. So if we've essentially matched the template name, but just to the right is the character that is added automatically by that other feature, we're going to get rid of it. So that's what's going on with that. Okay, so that's delete right. Format selected text, and go to cut point. So I should just specify format. So you have to have a text selection for that to work. So normally in a template you don't have a selection because you're generating and spitting out text. But this could be used from other places where that would be more useful. And then go to cut point is an internal one that we use, which moves the caret to where the last cut operation was performed. And this is useful for cut and paste refactorings, which if you're not familiar with what that is it allows me to take a block of code. Oh, this is going to fail on my machine because my clipboard chain is hosed, as we already determined at the beginning. But if I were to cut this and put it between two methods, it would do a refactoring, and then part of that refactoring says go to cut point and insert the method call. So we cut from here, paste in between methods. If you're trying this at home watching along, just take some code inside a method that's contiguous block, cut it to the clipboard, go between two methods and paste it, and you'll see what I'm talking about.
If you want, Mark, I've got that working here.
What the heck? We'll go ahead and change it, switch over.
So this is the same piece of code you saw me generate earlier. If we just highlight that bunch of code, Control X, cut it out, move outside the method, Control V, and you can see it's generated a method specifically capable of doing all the content there, and it's calling it from where we cut it. So it's an extract method performed just using cut and paste.
And we're back over here to me. All right, we're getting that transition a little bit smoother, Rory. Thanks. That wasn't.
It's a bit quicker.
Not very painful at all. Okay. All right. So let's go to cut point. So white space. Working with white space. I showed set leading white space already. There's also align new lines and trim left. Let me show you align new lines. So align new lines. Let's go turn this back. Let's put this over here. Get align new lines up here. Oops, actually I want to do text command. So align new lines has a parameter set to true to disable line alignments when expanding a template. So we can set it to true or false there. So so let's look at that. So I think I have ALN T. Oops, ANLT, sorry. There we go. So it looks like this. So if align new lines is true, ANL align new lines false does this. And let's look at those two different pieces and what they look like. And it's simply the same template in both of those. There's the false and there's the true. So it's just changing what it's passing in here. So you can see what happens. The new lines are going to be aligned to wherever I am, and the other ones are going to be will not be. So I think I can even come out way out here and type in that align new lines true. There you can see how they all line up there, and then align new lines false like that, and then we come back over here. The full code format comes in. Okay, so that's the alignment there. The other one's set leading white space. We talked about that, and then the other one was trim left. I have a trim left demo, and I forget the just trim left. Okay, so here's the deal. If I have here my proc and put a whole bunch of white space out here, and then I type in TL, it just gets rid of it all to the left. So it just trims that all to the left there. Okay, so let's trim the white space. After expansion, you can complete the word, you can bring up parameter info, and you can do IntelliSense. So I think I actually showed complete word last week in the I forget what we were doing last week. Was it MVC? Was that right or no?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, yeah. I wish I had maybe you can check that, Rory, and come back and tell folks which one it is. So complete word will bring up IntelliSense, and I guess since we're not sure what the reference is, we'll go ahead and I'll show how to do that right now. So let's create a new template here. We'll call it CW for complete word, and we'll say this dot. We have to put the caret here, and then we come in and we say complete word, and then click on OK, and then put a semicolon at the end like that. And so let's just click OK and see that works. So we type in CW, and we have another template there that it's interfering with. Hold on, there's a more specific context, so it's going to go with that one instead. Let's go back up to the top, and we will resolve ambiguity by changing this to complete CWD. So that works for us. CWD. There we go. So what's happening now is it puts the caret there and it calls IntelliSense. It brings up IntelliSense. So now you can see all of the identifiers off of this. Okay? So that's what that does. The other one that's in there is IntelliAssist, which is a CodeRush feature. This simply allows you to select from several options. So I think I can give you a demo of that. Like if I come up here and I type in USD, it would look like this, where I can specify a list of several options, and then you can use the tab key to cycle among them, and then hit enter when you finally have selected that one you want. So we don't use this very much in templates, but it's something you can do. You can also bring up parameter info as well. So there are a couple dialogues that you have access to. One of them is get table dimension. One of them is for getting a table. Another one is Smart Constructor. So I'll show you Smart Constructor. Smart Constructor is actually hooked up by an existing template we already ship and talk about a lot called CC. And oops, I'm inside a namespace. Let me come in here. Let's here and do it. There we go. CC. Whoops. CC. And there you can see it brings up a dialog. And now I can just move up and down, hit the space bar to toggle which ones I want to assign, which fields I want to assign, and then it builds that constructor for me. So that's a combination of a dialog and some smart code generation that's going on in that text command. Then get table dimensions. I'll show you the use of that. I've never actually done this inside of C# before. We use it primarily in HTML, but we'll take a look at that. And we'll create a new template that works with that. Called get table dimensions, GTD. We'll come in here under the expansion, and we'll choose the get table dimensions piece, and then we will. I think I'm going to I'll leave it at that for now. Just got table dimensions. Okay. Let's expand it out, GTD. And now I can specify the table size. Okay. Now once I have the table size, I can then do something with it. So let's actually do something with that. I'm thinking I'll create a box is what I'm thinking I'm going to do. And so now that to use this, there's another text command called for each column and for each row. So what I can do is I can say for each column. In fact, let's do this instead. Let's create a different template that we alias out to. We'll create a new template. We're going to call this line, like that. And inside line, we're going to do, we'll put in what I just had, for each column, and we're going to call another one, and we'll call this line chart. So we'll call this one. I'm not sure if this is even going to work, Rory. Isn't this exciting? Let's create a new template, call it line char, and inside that we'll have a single expansion of just that. Okay. So line is going to say for each column, we'll do this like that. Okay. And then what we'll do is we'll go back to the GTD, and then we're going to come in here and we're going to say for each row in this. And what we're going to do here is we're going to say do something called called row. We'll call that row template right there.
You mean line?
Oh no, I don't actually. Well, yeah. You know what? I could do that. Let's do that. That's actually a better idea. Let's do that. Yeah, I was going to make an open box, but let's instead.
Oh, I see.
Make it a solid filled box instead. Okay. So line is going to look like that. So that's a shorter demo. I like that better. Okay. So line char. Now I just want to call this asterisk instead. Now I want to rename this. Here. Asterisk. So speaking of which, we need a rename feature, a rename refactoring, because I have to actually do it manually in both places. All right. For each column, we're going to do an asterisk, and this is a line of asterisks right here. So the GTD is going to give me for each row. So let's try that. Click OK, and we'll type in GTD. And we're going to say like a 2x4 table, and oh, not bad. We just need to put in that. We just need to get an insert.
The CRLF, yeah.
Yeah. Here's return line feed, CRLF. All right. So what we want to do is back inside of line. We want to just go here and just hit enter, so it goes down to the next line. Okay. Click OK, and one more time. So GTD space. Let's do a 2x3. Nice. This is brilliant. I'm excited now. Let's do a 5x5. Okay, so there you go.
So what you really need is a lorem ipsum template. You can throw out huge amounts of rubbish text.
I'm going to leave that as an exercise for the viewer.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So for each, get table dimensions. You can use that to create pop up a UI and then do something based on it. You could build. One of the things I was trying to do was an open box, but you can do something like what we just did, or something completely different, maybe something more useful, where it's for example, we use this a lot in HTML to create tables in HTML. Okay. So those are things that pop up dialogues. You can pop up dialogues in these. A couple of miscellaneous ones here. TextCommand begin, TextCommand end actually inserts this delimiter character. Some smart code gen. We've got smart constructor. We saw that smart return and default constructor. So smart return is one that is actually tied to the R template. So if I'm inside of, for example, a method right here, let me get an inbox here. Oh, I see. Wait. Look what I've done. You see what I just did? I put a method inside of a method. All right, so let's try one more time. Let's have a method, and let's have it return something of this type. And now if I come in here, I type in just R space, it'll do smart return. It'll look for something of the appropriate return type here it's finding that I've got something called card type here of type suits, and it's suggesting card type. Okay,
Nice.
so that's smart return. If we just look at that template, all it's doing is it's just calling well, it actually goes out to the RR alias, but then there it's simply just calling the smart return text command. So text commands can do these kinds of things. What else do we have in here? Text processing, escape quotes. We use escape quotes inside of not a template, but inside of a selection manipulation, selection embedding. And it's in here inside of toString. So if I've got some sort of string and I want that I pasted in, and it has quotes inside of it, escape quotes is going to then escape all the quotes inside that selection, and then put a quote at the beginning, and put a quote, and then put these pieces all the way around it right there, so you can see what's going to go on the quotes around it. So as an example, I'll show you an example of what that looks like here. So if I have some multi-line text. For example, let's see if I can find something interesting. Well, I guess I'll just, hold on. Let's go out to here, view as text, include source. And this is just taking a while. It's really, okay, here we go. So let's say I have some text in here, like, for example, this. Copy that to clipboard. And then now I come back over in here and I paste this in. Okay, so now we have this. I can select all of that and then embed selection, toString. And then what happens is all of the quotes that are inside are now escaped out. So you can have, and it also took the multi-line pieces and just added the plus between them. So you can. It looks like this is a bug. I think I've seen this before, so we have to take this last one out right there. I think that is. I think it's fixed in every version but mine. So I think that's the case. But if it's not, you can just delete that last character right there. See that. So yeah. So we can manipulate selection. So that's one of the things that a text command can do that a string provider really generally doesn't do. It doesn't really work on selections like that. It's not intended to. The string provider is simply there to generate a string. Okay, so that's the end of those pieces. There's Rory mentioned something to me at the beginning. He said, "Hey, Mark, are you going to talk about the optional parameters to the link text command?" And I said, "Well, I really hadn't planned on it, but let's go ahead and do that." So let's talk about those. First, let's bring up the user guide and look at the link text command so we can see what we're talking about there with regard to the parameters. Because so far, in fact, all the times that I've shown it, we've simply just had a single parameter to it. But here you can see here the parameters. So it has two different optional parameters. One is the name of a string provider, which is going to format text that's being altered due to a change in another link. So if another link changes, this string provider will format the text. It's kind of an indirection change. And the out provider is the name of the out string provider to format text before changing all the other links. So this is useful if I want to link, for example, the property name to a field variable. And I want them both to change, but I want them to change in intelligent ways. So let's do a quick example of that. And I'm going to, let's go back into options and templates. And let's first, I think I'll show you where it's used. So if I, like, for example, type in like PS for property of type string, we come in here and we see that it goes to the read-write property router. We'll jump to that. Read-write property router has a few alternate expansions that have different context based on where we are. And so if we're in a class or struct and the variable matches, if it's auto-implemented, no. If we're in interface, no. Now, finally we get to here, just a normal one in the class or struct. We go to property rewrite. Let's jump over there. Then we go to property var declaration. Let's go jump to that alias, the variable, property var declaration. And then we go to something called, we have field default scope, get type, type link, property var. Here's the property var. Let's jump over to that. And here's where we have this bit of magic right here. Link. Here's the text that we specify. And then here, these are the names of two string providers, format field name and property name from field. So essentially conversion, conditional conversion that's going in here. Okay, so let's create similar one here. So we'll call this the SLD for the super link demo. And inside here we'll have two pieces. We'll have a link here, and then we'll have another link that simply just has property name, like that. And normal, like that. And I think I'm pretty sure I just do it normally like that. I may have to put these the opposite, but let's try this first and see what happens. So we will expand that out. So SLD like this, and so now notice here I've got the underscore there. So I come in here and I say like my name, it keeps that underscore there. If I delete it, the underscore is gone. I select the letter M, it puts it there because that's what I've specified for my my options inside of for my identifiers. So if I go into code style identifiers, here's where I say I want to have a prefix that's an underscore. I want this to be Pascal case. But I can make my fields camel case if I wanted to instead, and then take out the prefix, and everything would still work. In fact, let's show that. I'll make that change. So I made those two changes there. Now if I make a change here, now it's still in what I'm expecting. The piece I wanted to find out is what happens if I change it here. Yeah, it is working as I'm expecting. So that was so whatever I type in here, my identifier, it conditions it the other way. Okay, so that's what's going on there. You can specify optional parameters to the link text command to do your input formatting and your output formatting, and those will be used so that if I make a change here, it'll be made there. So all of these, I've alluded to this at the beginning, but all of these are extensible. I can create new text commands that will show up in this menu, and I can create new string providers that will show up inside this dialog right here. Okay? Which means if I want to have some sort of custom connection between two different bits of links, I can set that up by just specifying these optional string providers. Okay, so do we have questions, Rory? Do we have questions we should look at?
I don't believe we actually have any questions waiting for us. We've apparently covered things fairly well.
Okay. All right. So Miller's not only solved the halting problem, but now he's realigning the world's time zones.
Well, we had a few from earlier, yes, that's true.
Thank you, DG. Thank you for that comment. I appreciate that. Okay, so if we don't have any other questions, what's our time on this, by the way? Hey, an hour 20, I think, just about what I call it. Amanda, it's time you can eat some food now.
Oh, thank goodness.
How did he do that?
How did he do that? All right, so we have 2 more webinars coming up this week. Visit devexpress.com/webinars and register, and like today, ignore the times. They are an hour ahead. So tomorrow's webinar is at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, reporting with charts and pivot grid with reporting evangelist Seth Juarez. He has 2 special guests, our charting evangelist Brian Wood and analytics evangelist Woody Pewitt. Join him and walk him through charting and pivot grid with our reports. And Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, Pivot Grid UI features with analytics evangelist Woody Pewitt. You'll see some of the advanced features the Pivot Grid provides for data visualization. So we have a great lineup of webinars scheduled through the month of March. Visit devexpress.com/webinars and register away. All right. So, yes.
I was just going to say, Amanda, what's interesting is if you click the register on these,
it's the right time because the meeting is correct. Yeah.
Right. So the thing that's interesting though is that on the 18th of March, our time is showing correctly at 10 a.m. So I just think there's an algorithm issue with regards to the code we wrote to show this, and it looks like it's only it's like I've got a few days or something in terms of where it's choosing to
all of next week's are also incorrect. So yeah. So our regular times are 10 a.m. and noon for CodeRush stuff. So just stick to that, everybody. 10 a.m. and noon whenever it's Mark and Rory.
What's super interesting about this is the Pivot Grid UI features time is actually showing up correctly. And it's in between this and next week. So yeah, the time you want to use is click the register button, use that time. We'll get the web developers out there to figure out the problem on this other time. Sorry, Amanda, I think I interrupted you. You were going to go somewhere else?
No, that's great. I wanted to point that out anyway. So I was just saying if you missed, if anyone missed this webinar, they can obviously watch it at the DevExpress channel at tv.devexpress.com.
Okay.
And that's it.
All right. We'll end the webinar then. Thanks, everybody.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
Bye.